So, what do I have against these creative people out there? What do I have against people who are classified as hipsters? What is wrong with the idea of being creative? What's wrong with hipsters and being hip? Well, it's not like the idea of being a hipster is necessarily by itself a bad issue. But the contemporary culture that these people have done, the actions that they have done is based on absolute hypocrisy. They are the types of people that read The Guardian and the BBC. And these people always get these artsy jobs, even though art is based on creativity, even though they support these bullshit newspapers that oppose all forms of freedom. And they are practically like your modern hipsters. They might have taken things that came before it. That's why in a previous video I said the predecessor that awoke from the dark. It may be due to the fact that hipsters are now the most prolific of minor social groups, taking up whole neighborhoods and filling in hundreds of column inches. Half of all voters 18 to 29 consider themselves hipsters. It's hard to be away from this subculture when you're practically the majority of stupid white people. I mean, white trash people are pretty much rednecks or hipsters. And it's sad that these people represent such groups. They also revealed that one's cultural inclinations could damage politicians and their ambitions, with 98% of Republicans saying that they would be less likely to vote for a hipster politician. And I guess you can say that about any person who also hates hippies, such as myself. These people don't understand the modern world. They act like time is somehow moving in their direction, and that they can somehow take away our liberties while supporting it for themselves, thus treating normal people like second-class citizens. But let's go back to the origins of this culture before I bash them in every way possible. Hipsters are a subculture of men and women, typically in their 20s and 30s, that value independent thinking, counterculture, far-left politics, and have an appreciation for art and the indie rock. The greatest concentration of hipsters can be found in Williamsburg, New York. So they're practically a nationality from New York. The Williamsburgians is what you can call them if you really want to. But we like to call them useless hipsters and fucking idiots. You know, whatever word you want to use. Doesn't matter at this point. Both hipster men and hipster women have similar hairstyles, even though it's a different gender. They don't understand the differences between men and women, or the differences between what's popular and what's unpopular, since they have an appreciation for a lot of bands that become popular indie groups. How hypocritical. They try too hard to be edgy, because they believe if it's mainstream, it's bad. But then again, anything can be mainstream, including being a hipster. So there's clearly something going on here that these people don't get. I mean, many popular stores appeal to hipsters, such as Abercrombie and Fitch, the American Gap, and all that useless shit people buy these days. As a whole, these people can't be defined, since there's no specific stereotype. But the term hipster is cross-applied from the 1930s beatniks, which later became a group that became your usual hippies. So it's not like these people really are new. We never coined them when we did. They are just like hippies, just not crack obsessed. But even worse for a group of relatively sober people. These people have an obsession for the far left movement, which actually opposes all forms of individuality. And I have had discussions with some of them about politics, and some of them say democracy is the great evil in society, and we need to support a totalitarian whatever. Or some of them think, oh no, we need an anarchy because the government is evil, but then they don't have an issue with the welfare system or Barack Obama. So they're clearly on that side of the political spectrum, or I guess cameras view that way. These people, let me give you an example of what they believe in. Well, if you've heard of the movement known as Occupy Wall Street, yeah, these people represent the majority of the movement. Right now I'm trying to figure out if I know anything about hipsters and about the politics behind them, because I kind of forgot some. So I'm now trying to look this up. Well, I mean, I'm not going to research a group of people I absolutely hate unless they're at least moderately decent people who have significantly affected society, which these people haven't, since they've never made a contribution, even though they actually aren't known for committing crimes. To quote the Telegraph, which is kind of like the Guardian, your usual 6 to 8 generation leftist bullshit newspaper in Britain, Occupy Wall Street, the gathering of angry actors, the graphic designers, and various other hipsters in the financial districts of New York City, might be the most degenerate left-wing movement of recent times. It's weird that it demands all these useless things. They have all these self-pressed t-shirts. They capture the decentness of the modern left into the cesspool of victimology, conspiracy mongering, and disdain for mass society and its allegedly dumb inhabitants. I mean, I guess this isn't really the most leftist thing to say, but I mean, what this guy's saying is true here. But back to the article, which is about how hipsters are fucking lame. It's actually called The Teenage Moralism of the Occupy Wall Street Hipsters Almost Makes Me Ashamed of Being Left-Wing, by Brendan O'Neill, who is a columnist for The Big Issue in London and The Australian in. His satire of environmentalism and all that. I mean, you get the point. Anyways, back to the article. From representing anything that I, a lefty, would recognize as progressive and humane, the gaggle of rich kid spouts little more than a snobbier and fear-mongering and seemingly incapable society of deciding whom they loathe the most. Greedy fat bankers of dumb, or the dumb fat public, some of them being your greedy bankers. Occupy Wall Street claims to be a mass workers' movement, but it's nothing of the sort. In fact, it is a tiny self-selected group of self-righteous, mostly middle-class activists who have failed to win over large sections of the American public to their cause, and which isn't surprising when you consider that on the rare occasion that these trendy banker bashers talk about the American public, they do so in a terrible way. And so these people are so bad that the left doesn't like them. These protesters are just imitating like your other usual lefties. At least they come right out of nowhere with their irrational goals, so at least we know they're irrational. But what I'm afraid of is that these people might represent the majority of Americans. And I don't want that to be the case. If our president was a hipster, I would probably move away from this country, even if it means going to Canada. Yes, I would move away from this country if America got overtaken by hipsters. These people really need to die, along with hippies and any other group of people who oppose individuality. I mean, the hippies themselves value the collective. They are part of the Jesus movement of hippies that obsessed over this idea that everybody matters, so the collective must matter, and not the individual, which clearly does not help society. As hippies go, their social attitudes of supporting what Americans and British people now call liberal exists in this movement, which is not actually liberal, because liberal means classically liberal libertarian. This movement is actually as far left as it gets. These people just support political trends, and maybe not support something that might be popular in the future. You might end up erasing your own history of politics if you're a hipster, because you'll realize how stupid it is. You'll eventually get out of it as much as you can. And it's just ironic that this Maoist news guy is actually also a hipster. If you go to Maoist Rebel News, he's a hipster. He wouldn't exist in a society like that. Like a society where he would have no freedom anyway. Now, if he doesn't like freedom, and if he's just a self-hating hipster, then maybe he shouldn't be in the hipster movement. Hipsters are just this useless group of people. And I'll get into the personal stuff in a little bit. But these people, other than the ones that actually create things, are just a bunch of arrogant snobs who believe that anti-consumerism, when replaced by consumerism, their consumerism, is somehow making us better. Combined with the hatred for all normal things, their action, wherever it is, just makes me cringe. If not for the subliminal indoctrination of the terrible Jewish anarchist Noam Chomsky. Well, he's practically an anarchist. If it wasn't for them, maybe young Americans wouldn't sympathize for the enemy. The hipster, you see, is often blessed, and just blessed with the luxury of never having to think for themselves. Because even though they hate the mass media, they are sheeps to their own media. Let me give you a quote that a hipster said. "I'll never be a corporate suit or sellout. America's evil empire that rapes the earth of its resources and robs impoverished countries. Islamic terrorists wouldn't want to kill us even if we just let them alone and stop being so arrogant. We don't own the world." Oh, so they say we wouldn't want to kill us even if we just let them alone? Oh, wow. Because that seems to make no sense, because apparently you want them to take us away, and you want them to take our freedoms away. So yeah, fuck you to all the hipsters out there. These are all the common beliefs of these useless hipsters, anarcho-totalitarianistic, socialistic, undemocratically, democratically-nistic, useless hipsters. That just, fuck you all. You're all worthless pieces of shit. You're all fucking idiots. If you try to break into my house, I will shoot you the way I will shoot those useless ghetto people out there. And to all you hipsters watching this, burning in hell isn't enough. Even hell doesn't need people like you. You don't deserve to even have a soul if souls even existed. And if I'm going to hell, which, hey, wouldn't surprise me, I wouldn't want you being next to me. You deserve to go everywhere that I'm not at. And, hey, fuck you all.